Shalom, friends. Welcome to the Shir in Mesillat Yesharim, the Path of the Just, written by the Ramchal, 18th century great Kabbalist. This, of course, is a work in Musar, in ethics. I'm Eliyahu Sher from Kesed Ve'emet. My site, www.lovingkindness.co. We're on chapter 5. We're learning about the trait of watchfulness, zehirut, and we're learning about things that prevent us from getting on with doing what we should do. Now, we learned that there are three main things that are going to prevent us from getting to our destination. The first thing, of course, is in simply not putting in enough time and letting time go by that we're not going to be able to devote to our studies of Torah. And our second thing is the idea of being involved in laughter. When we too much involved in laughter and levity that goes on, it will distract us from our duty at hand, which is ultimately to serve Hashem. And ultimately, the more that we involve ourselves in this levity, the more that we are going to remove ourselves from opportunity to improve ourselves. Becoming involved in scoffing and mocking and joking and laughter is going to distract ourselves because we will be unable to attend to the matters at hand, studying Torah and the fulfillment of mitzvahs. The kol kach lama, and why does this happen? Levi, since it is, that just as it is, that all of this existence of being careful is dependent on one's heart. We need to put some attention to our hearts. Ala davar. We have to think about it. Kain kol atzmo shel haschok. So too, all of the essence of laughter. Eino ela meisir halev min hamachshavot. Laughter is going to remove our hearts from the thoughts, all of our thoughts which are straight and are contemplative, and we have to really get to the bottom of it. When we begin to laugh, we will laugh it all off. You know, you can take a situation, for example, everybody's sitting at the table, they're talking about a deep subject, it's Shabbos, and everybody's got this deep subject on their hands. They're thinking about the purpose of life or whatever. Somebody steps up to the base and it says, you know, I have a joke to tell you. And he begins to tell this joke, and everybody starts laughing and giggling. And before long, the whole concept of the purpose of life is finished. Nobody wants to talk about it any longer. This is what laughter does. This is what scoffing does. This is what mocking does. It takes away from our ability to think in depth and to get to the bottom of things. V'nimtza, consequently, as a result of being involved in laughter and playing and all sorts of fun and games, ultimately we will get to a stage whereby we'll be unable to allow those thoughts of fear to enter into our hearts at all. A person can be involved in all sorts of silly things in his life. What's important to him is the jokes, is the loud music, the distraction, the everything that complicates matters, but makes it sound like it's just fun and games. Once a person gets to that stage, they will be unable to progress in their lives and to develop a true fear in their hearts of what the purpose of life really is all about. And see the power of the foolishness and the destruction that it causes. If you take, for example, a shield, hamashuach, and it is anointed with oil, b'shemim, that what happens is it knocks off all of the arrows that encounter it. As soon as somebody shoots an arrow towards a person that has a shield which is filled with oil, as soon as the arrow hits the shield, immediately the arrow simply slips off the shield. Or mashlichim la'aretz, and it throws it to the ground. It throws the arrow to the ground. And of course, it doesn't allow the arrow to reach the body, which of course is the purpose in this particular case of the shield, of Adam. So too is all of the scoffing and this mockery that people get involved in. In front of rebuke and reproof. With just one joke, and one bit of laughter, when a person is involved in just a little bit of levity and joking around, what he does is it causes for a person to fall off causes him it falls from him, this abundance of the greatness of this impression and this awakening for what the heart awakens itself to and what it gets impressed with. But small midai, or gets even more so, reuto or shom, or of its what it sees and what it hears in yanim, all sorts of matters, which are ultimately going to awaken him to an accounting and of looking at all of his actions. Which means to say, a person can be very serious and he says to himself, I've got my purpose in life set out for me, even begins to tell people about it, and all it takes is one joke and the whole story falls apart. As soon as a person gets involved in too much of this late sanut, he loses track of his purpose in life and he will not get onto the right path. Through the strength of this late sanus, of this levity, scoffing and mocking, everything in life will just fall to the ground. There's no importance to life any longer. Life is jovial. It's all about fun and games. And it will not make an impression on him at all. It's not because of the weakness, the lightness of the matters. And it's not because of a lack that the heart can't understand. But rather, it is because of the strength of the foolishness, which destroys all the matters of musar, which is ethics and growth and fear, etc. The prophet Isaiah shouted out like a crane, which means he went all out. And the prophet Isaiah went all out and he began to shout at everybody in the streets, everybody everywhere. He saw because he was able to see that it wasn't allowing the place for the rebuke, that they would make an impression. And they were losing all hope of the sinners. And that's what it says. And now, said the prophet, do not go on and continue all your mocking, lest it be that your afflictions will be strengthened. So we see over here, I'm just going to read this English so it goes a bit smoother. Behold, the prophet Isaiah would scream like a crane, for he saw that this was what left no room for his rebukes to make an impression, thus ruining all hope for the sinners. This is what he said, and now do not be mockers, lest your afflictions be strengthened. Kvar gazru, and already they decreed, Amar chachamim zikron livrocha, they already said, the sages of blessed memory, shehalates mevi hayesrim alav, that the mocker brings his own afflictions upon himself. This is what the verse itself says explicitly. That judgments are prepared for the mockers. Judgments, meaning punishments, are prepared for the mockers. This is the thing that the law itself brings for him. A person who affects himself through contemplation, he begins to think about his life, or min halimudim, and he begins to study about what's the right thing in life. He does not need to afflict himself in his body. Already he'll do teshuvah from his sins, belize without this. He doesn't need the shvatim. He doesn't need the judgments. Through the strength of the thoughts of repentance that he has, that get born, that are brought out in his heart, on what he reads. When he reads certain things, already the rebuke is there enough to change him as a person. He doesn't need the whippings of the strap to convince him of what is right and wrong. He doesn't need to be sent to a prison, God forbid. He doesn't need to be sent to any rehabilitation center, because he is involved in his own rehabilitation, because he is involved in his own learning, which teaches him the right way to behave. One can only get this out of the Torah, and one can only get it out from fulfilling the mitzvahs. One will never learn how to grow in life and how to understand what life is all about if one simply leads one's life in a mockery manner, in a way of laughter and joy. Or sheyishma mina musarim, or for example, the person listens to rebukes, and various rebukes and reproofs that people say to him. He listens to what they say and he says, there's what to work on. I'm going to work on it. He does not need the whip to whip him into place. But regarding these scoffers, that they are not affected by rebukes because of the strength of their foolishness. The foolish people in the world, they don't get it. And you come to them and you rebuke them. You say to them, this is not the way to behave. And they laugh at you in your face. They say, who are you to tell me? I will do what I want to. I'm an independent person. If I want to laugh, I will laugh. And if I want to steal, I will steal. If I want to murder, I will murder. And they laugh in your face. There is no way to rebuke them. Ein lahem tikun ela shvatim. For such individuals, ultimately, the only way to correct them is through harsh judgments. They will have to see their day in court. They will have to go to prison. They'll have to deal with the time involved because everything else to them was a joke. They weren't prepared to listen to what's important. Because these people, they don't have the strength in their foolishness to push it away from them. The shifatim have a way that for the lates, for the mocker, a judgment that is given to a late, to a mocker, is not something that can be pushed away so easily. See, when the person is mocking and joking around and scoffing, and one comes up to him and rebukes him, that is not the way to behave, one says to him. He laughs it out. He is not impressed by the statement that one says. But when he finds himself in the presence of a judge, and the judge says you'll be sentenced to 20 years of prison, he cannot laugh at the judge any longer, because there are people in the courtroom, and he is in handcuffs, and he is going to be taken out and put into the prison because he didn't listen to words of rebuke. The Ramchal is strong, but the Ramchal is telling us golden lessons here. He's telling us what it means to grow in love and not to be involved in foolish things. V'hine, behold, according to the greatness of the sin and its consequences, its results that come out from it, the true judge is going to be even more strong in his punishments. This is what our rabbis already taught us. Great, how harsh is this mockery. That in the beginning, when a person involves himself in this late sanut, he gets punished and afflicted. In the end, he gets totally wiped out. Sheneemar, as the pasuk says, lest it be that the bond, and now do not be mockers, lest your bonds be strengthened, for a decree of destruction have I heard. Which means to say that God is ultimately going to destroy these people who are involved in the lifestyle of mocking. Now, the Ramchal comes to the third thing, which we're going to read very quickly. For hamafsid hashlishi, the third category that is going to cause us a loss in reaching our goal in this world, hu achevra. This is the type of people that we mix with. So one, we said, of course, not to waste our life away, wasting our time and so on and so forth. Two is be careful not to be involved in so much mockery and scorn and scoffing at everything that we see and joking. Life's not about joking. And the third thing is bad company. Bad company is going to hold us back from our ability to become who we really are, because we believe we have to follow the crowd. Dahainu, which means when we make our relationships with people who are foolish and who are sinners, and that's what the verse says in Mishlei, a friend of fools it's going to be bad for him. He's going to fall apart. Because behold, we see many times, even after it becomes absolutely true by a person, the obligation of service and to be careful with all of it, Yitrapei mimena, a person becomes weakened in it. Or ya'avor al ezi dvarim, or a person begins to transgress over certain things, mimena, of it. Kedei shelo yelagu alav chaverav, in order that his friends won't laugh at him. Or kedei lihitarev imahem, or to become a part of them. Sometimes a person goes out with his friends, they go out to eat, and all he wants is to enjoy a good meal. He wants to talk about some nice things that have happened in his life or their lives. And the next thing he knows, they're speaking about all sorts of negative things. They're speaking about other people. And he feels to himself, well, if he keeps quiet, perhaps they'll think badly of him. If he doesn't say something nasty about that person that they're saying nasty things about, they'll think less of him. Or he thinks he needs to take a part in everything. And he begins to. As a result of the bad companionship that he has, he too becomes a bad person, no less than these people are. This is what Shlomo warns, and he says, with people who do different, do not mix with them. If a person says to you, a person's mindset should always be in a way that he becomes mixed with other people. He must know how to get on well with all people. Afata emolo, you can say to him, when do we say this? That a person should get along well with other people? When we're talking about people that do the actions of people, when people behave as people, then we have a duty to become part of their crowd. But we don't want to talk about people in the same sense who do actions like the actions of animals. And Shlomo warns further, walk opposite to the foolish man. A person is walking down the road, today's times, he sees a person walking up the road. In today's times, there is a virus going on. We're required to wear masks by law, and it seems to be that the mask is medically correct and will prevent us from the particular virus from infecting us. We're walking down the road and we notice somebody walking up the road. We have our mask on. We notice the other person does not want to wear a mask. We have two choices. We can either walk directly in front of this person and cross their path. Perhaps they'll sneeze, or they'll cough, or they'll be talking and something will come in the air and affect us. And we can walk past them, and as we do so, we can tell them, you should be wearing a mask. Well, that's one way of dealing with it. Another way of dealing with it is step to the other side of the road. Well, which is more important? Is my health more important, or is the foolish person more important, that I should waste my time in directing my energies with this person that maybe I'll make a difference in their lives? The wise person says, stay away from the foolish person. If this person doesn't understand the principles involved, don't make yourself a part of their crowd, because all that's going to happen is the virus will be immediately there in your presence. Step away from them. Don't stand by them and criticize them, because they're still not wearing the mask and they're not interested in wearing it. What good is it to reprimand the scoffer? Walk on the other side of the road and protect yourself, because you are the wise person. Shlomo HaMelech says, walk on the opposite side of the foolish person. Don't come into his property. Don't come into his 4 amos of where he is walking. The David HaMelech Amar, and King David said, Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach. In the very first Tehillim, King David uses some expressions. He says, happy is the man that does not walk in the way of the Rishaim, etc., etc. Kuvar Pirshu, and already the rabbis have explained, Zichronim Livrocha, im halach, this is the rule. If you walk in the ways of the wicked person, so for la'amod, your end will be that you will stand. V'im amad, and if already he's been standing, so for la'shav, the end will be that he will sit. V'oimer, and it says, lo yashavti misei shav. David HaMelech says, I never sat amongst people who are vain, people who are empty. Sanesi kahal mereim. I have hated a congregation of evil people. David HaMelech tells us a secret. He says, if you follow the ways of this evil company, you put yourself in the presence of people who are involved in these negative conversations, evil conversations that can end up doing terrible things to people. If you were standing once upon a time, you will end up sitting. If you were sitting, it will be worse. If you are walking, you're standing. If you're standing, you're sitting. If you're sitting, there'll be total destruction. I'm going to leave it at this for today. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll find out more about this trait in our next year, and then hopefully move on, all being well, to the next section of the Mesillat Yesharim. We'll be dealing in the trait of zrizut, where we have to get enthusiastic about serving Hashem. Thanks for joining me. I'm Eliyahu Shir from Chesed Ve'emet. My website is www.lovingkindness.co. If you've enjoyed this shir and got something out of it, please like my shir by clicking on the thumbs up button. Please share the shir with family and friends if you feel that they can get something from it, and help me to expand my YouTube channel also. If you'd like to learn with me one-on-one, please feel free to be in touch with me, or just to send me an email about any subject on your mind, Torah, growth, mitzvahs. I'd be delighted to read what you're involved in and to respond, and we can be in touch further. I wish you everything of the best, and I look forward to another shiur in the near future. Shalom, shalom. Bye-bye.